Chapter 3 Supreme Modesty Uttam Mardava. Modesty is also the distinct nature of the soul, like forbearance, the state of tranquility which is produced in the soul in the absence of pride, and by taking the shelter of the prideless nature of the self, is called modesty. Although modesty is the natural character of the soul, yet the modification of the passion of pride, which is devoid of modesty, is existing in it from beginningless time. Mridor bhavaha mardavam, that is, modesty or humility is the name of tenderness. Owing to pride passion, the modesty existing in the nature of the self gets nullified and a sort of stubbornness is developed in it. Due to arrogance resulting from pride passion, man thinks himself to be too high and others too low. The required degree of politeness is lost in him. The self-esteemed person always tries to keep himself in an elated position and others in a lower position. What does he not do for the sake of pride? He indulges in acts of deceit and becomes angry if someone disrespects him. He is found to be always ready to do anything and everything for getting respect, so much so that he even gets ready to spend very lavishly the wealth that he might have collected at the cost of his life. Pride remains even if everything, that is home, family, etc. are renounced. The so-called famous saints may be seen quarreling for the height of their seat and post. They are irritated when not offered proper salutation. All these are the peculiar facets of pride. The great Pandit Todarmal has illustrated the behavior of a proud person thus. If a man is overpowered by pride passion, he wants to humiliate others and exalts himself, and for this purpose plans many schemes. He censures others and extols himself and pulls down the image of others through various ways and means and wants his prestige to be very high. A lot of wealth that he might have collected with a great difficulty, he spends in marriages and etc., and even takes loans for the same. Under the delusion that his name, fame will remain even after death, he is ready to lose his life for the sake of self-esteem. If someone does not pay respect, he tries to earn respect even by giving threats and creating troubles for others. Moreover, under the pressure of pride, he does not pay respect to honorable and elderly persons, and also becomes thoughtless. If he does not find others in let down position and himself in a higher one, he inwardly feels very miserable, cuts the parts of his bodies, and even dies by taking poison and etc. Such things happen when one is overpowered by pride. Amongst passions, pride finds the second place and anger the first. In 10 religions too, supreme modesty finds the second place after supreme forbearance. There is a valid reason for this. Although anger and pride both are forms of aversion, even then their nature is different. When someone abuses us, we get angry, but when someone praises us, we feel exalted. In the world, there are chances of both censure and praise. The ignorant self indulges in passions in both the situation. For example, those whose physique is weak are troubled by both types of weather, cold and hot. In hot weather, they get affected by sunstroke, and in cold, they are down with cough and cold. Similarly, those whose spiritual health is weak become uneasy both by censure and praise. When exposed to the hot air of censure, they get affected by the sunstroke of anger, and when exposed to the cold air of praise, they are down with the cough and cold of pride. The enemies criticize and the friends praise. Therefore, enemies become the means of anger, friends of haughtiness. The opponents have the particular habit of not talking at all about the existing virtues and talking exaggeratively of non-existing vices. The flatterers too have a peculiar habit. They are also haunted by a weakness, not to talk of the existing vices, but to talk too much about petty virtues and sometimes even to talk of non-existing virtues too. Addressing a compounder as a doctor and a clerk as an advocate are the consequences of this habit. Both the tendencies are bad because they are comfortable to anger and pride respectively. Though in the world such persons may be rarely found, who put forth virtues in the form of vices, but such flatterers will be available everywhere who talk of petty qualities exaggeratively. It is very common to call a millionaire a multimillionaire. One more thing to be noted is that the censors generally speak ill of a person at his back. Very few censurers will be found censuring face to face, but praise is often showered face to face and very little at the back. They are the fortunate few who are praised even at their back. Therefore, praise is more dangerous than censure. Unfavorable circumstances give birth to anger and favorable to pride. Failure is the mother of anger and success of pride. This is the reason why an unsuccessful person is resentful by nature and a successful one full of pride. When some person is unsuccessful in some work, he exhibits anger on those situations which he thinks are the cause of failure. But if he succeeds, he gives all credit to himself and becomes proud thereby. Although haughtiness too is as dangerous a malady as anger, yet one does not know why people love it. Commendation certificates would be found displayed in most of the houses, but certificates for indulging in anger will not be found in anybody's house. Also, nobody gives a certificate in praise of anger to anyone, but even if somebody will give it, nobody will accept it. What to say of displaying it in one's house? But people accept commendation certificate with great joy and display it in the house with great interest. Even many people take it to be a wisdom certificate, though the word commendation certificate is very clearly written on it. When not satisfied even with this, they get it published completely in the newspapers, even if they have to pay for its advertisement. If, incidentally, one receives a commendation certificate, he keeps it safely. But insult might have been received many times, but the wretched persons assuredly are insulted many times more than are commended. Commendation is a sweet poison which, when taken, tastes well, but in reality is very painful. Not only painful, it is in fact pain incarnate, because after all, it is a kind of passion. Although pride, like anger, is also a harmful malady of the soul, even then externally it is not an omni-destroyer like anger. Whosoever is the object of our anger, we want to destroy or want to ruin him totally, but we don't want to ruin the object of our pride. Rather, try to maintain it, though in a pettier form in comparison to us. An angry person does not want to accept the existence of his opponent, whereas the haughty one wants gatherings and persons seated down so that he may appear to be seated at a higher place than others. For the fulfillment of self-esteem, a haughty person needs a congregation wherein all shall be sitting below him and he at somewhat higher level than all others. So the haughty person wants to keep others also, but somewhat below him, because the nature of the passion of pride is to be seen at higher place, and height is a relative position. When someone is lowly placed, the question of the others being placed high or up arises. Lowness requires highness, and highness requires lowness for their mutual existence. The angry person wants to remove the cause of anger, but the haughty one wants to maintain the auxiliary cause of haughtiness. An angry person says, "Shoot him, kill him," but the proud fellow says, "No, don't kill, but keep him a little pressed." In the villages, the landlords neither allow anyone to wear gold in the legs nor allow anyone to build a house taller in height than their own buildings, because if other buildings were taller than their buildings, then their self-esteem would get hurt. The angry person wants separation, but the proud fellow likes company. If I become angry in a meeting, then either I would run away, or if allowed to have my own way, I would ask all others to go away. But if I am overpowered by self-esteem, I would neither walk out nor would ask others to go away, but would make them sit below and would myself like to sit on top. The nature of pride is not of asking others to run away, but is of keeping all under control and in a lower position. Whereas the nature of wrath is of finishing the matter altogether. This is the reason why anger is number one passion and pride number two. Pride has many aspects. Some of its aspects are such which many persons do not treat to be the types of pride. Inferiority complex is one such types of pride which people don't want to include in pride. Their hearts don't allow them to call a forlorn fellow to be a haughty person. They maintain wretched is wretched. How can he be haughty? If pride is the name of the absence of the religion of modesty, and modesty religion is the name of the absence of pride passion, then wretchedness will have to be treated as pride, because if not treated as pride, then in the absence of pride, wretchedness would become modesty. This can be explained in the following way. Pride is generated under the shelter of 8 things. Jnanam pujam kulam jatim balam raddhim tapo vapuh ashtavashritya manatvam smayamahur gatasmayah. The totally prideless omniscients have described pride as the intoxication of self in respect of 8 things. 1. Learning. 2. Worship. 3. Heredity. 4. Caste. 5. Power. 6. Affluence. 7. Austerity. And 8. Physique. In conclusion, it may be said that anger or pride, any kind of malady, does not arise in air. It arises when the soul seeks shelter of any other object. Shelter means the object of destination. That is, whenever we indulge in anger, it is in respect of something or is concerned with something. Similarly, pride too arises when one seeks shelter of something. Those things under whose shelter pride arises have been classified into 8 categories. I am learned. The pride arising under the shelter of this feeling is called the pride of learning. Likewise, the pride of one's heredity, pride of one's caste, pride of affluence, pride of power, etc. are the various types of pride arising under the shelter of heredity, caste, affluence, power, etc. Most of the people believe that pride of affluence exists only in wealthy persons and not in poor ones. Their assertion is that since the poor persons do not possess wealth, how can they have pride of affluence? Likewise, the pride of fair complexion would be only in beautiful persons, not in ugly ones. The pride of strength would be in stronger persons, not in weak ones. Similarly, we can presume about other types of pride also. From an outward look, this conjecture appears to be convincing, but if one thinks coolly, it is clear that this is not rational, because if the affluents will have pride of affluence, strong persons of strength, beautiful persons of beauty, then accordingly the pride of wisdom must be found in the wise persons. But on the contrary, the pride of wisdom is not found in the wise, right-faithed persons, but is found in the ignorant persons. Not only the pride of wisdom, but all the 8 types of pride are found in the ignorant persons. When there can be pride of learning in an ignorant person, why can't there be pride of affluence in paupers, the pride of beauty in ugly ones, and similarly the pride of strength in weak persons? Suppose there is a person who neither possesses wealth nor power, neither he is beautiful nor affluent, neither he is wise nor an ascetic, and he also does not come from the upper caste or tribe, then this person would be presumed to be devoid of all types of pride. If so, we will have to treat him as the possessor of modesty religion in the absence of pride passion. Perhaps this will not be acceptable to anyone, because in this way, the presence of modesty religion will have to be accepted in a pauper, ugly, weak, low caste or an ignorant person too, who does not know even the name of religion, which is not possible. In fact, the correct position is that he who considers himself great in the association of affluence possesses pride passion. Simply by possessing wealth, one need not necessarily be boastful of it, but due to its possession, one can become boastful by considering himself great and taking pride in it. Likewise, he alone is pauper who considers himself humiliated because he has no money. But simply by paucity or absence of wealth, nobody becomes wretched. If this would be so, then the naked possessionless saints will have to be treated as wretched ones, because they have no money nor they keep anything with them. In fact, they are the real possessors of modesty religion. How can they be wretched? Therefore, one who by considering himself small because of absence of wealth feels humiliated, he alone is wretched. The reason why we hesitate to accept the presence of the pride of wealth in the absence of wealth is our conjecture that self-esteem is generated in the association of wealth. We measure pride by the presence of other things. The passion of pride and the religion of modesty both are the modifications of the soul. Therefore, their measurement should be related with the self and not with others. Milk is measured in liters and cloth in meters. If someone says, "Give 2 liters of cloth and 2 meters of milk," people will take him to be a fool because the person speaking this way is ignorant of both liter and meter, or he does not know the distinction between cloth and milk. Why otherwise would he ask for cloth in liters and milk in meters? Why should one measure the soul's virtues, modesty, etc., and also its vices, pride, etc., with other things? The persons believing that pride passion arises due to possession of wealth and modesty religion in its absence neither understand pride passion nor modesty religion. They may even be indulging in pride passion, but its actual characteristics are not known to them. It is just possible that one may possess wealth and yet there may be no pride in respect of wealth. The pride of wealth, etc., are definitely found in wrong-faithed persons, even in the absence of wealth, because so long as right belief, realization of self is not acquired, the presence of the pride of wealth, etc., would invariably be found. It may be that such a person outwardly may not seem to be indulging in self-esteem. Pride and wretchedness both are the contrapositions of modesty religion. As such, both are different forms of pride. When it is agreed that the absence of modesty is pride and the absence of pride is modesty, at least then one will have to agree to include wretchedness also in pride. Otherwise, it will not be possible to accept the absence of wretchedness in the possessors of modesty religion. The wise does not have the pride of learning and the ignorant does possess it. From this statement too, one more thing comes into light, that the existence of that thing is not essential, which forms the basis of pride. Therefore, for the pride of wealth, the possession of wealth is not essential. The question of wealth arises only in human birth, but pride is found in all the 4 types of births. The custom of caste and tribe is also found in human behavior only. Pride has to be understood in a broader sense and not simply within the limits of human behavior. Here, the main point worth noting is that an ignorant self does not believe in self-measurement, but he believes that his measurement lies in affluence and paucity. He considers himself great by affluence and wretched because of paucity or because of absence of wealth. Whether one considers himself big or small due to possession or non-possession of other things, both are facets of pride. Because of this reason, not only the proud is possessing pride passion, but the wretched one is also overpowered by pride. From worldly point of view, there may be difference in the two, but from the spiritual angle, particularly in the context of modesty religion, both haughtiness and wretchedness are assuredly the forms of pride. There is no difference in them. The religion of modesty will be found only in the absence of both. Stubbornness is there in both haughtiness and wretchedness. The tenderness and the naturalness of modesty religion are absent in both. The proud person goes backward and the wretched one forward, but do not stand erect. The proud one moves in such a way as if he is broader than the road. Likewise, the wretched self moves in such a way as if he is being pressed by heavy road. Therefore, this is an established fact that haughtiness and wretchedness both are impure dispositions of the soul. Both disrupt peace, and modesty religion is the name of the absence of both. Pride disappears at the advent of parity. Modesty religion contains the element of parity. All souls are equal, no one is small or great. This faith automatically lessens the passion of pride, because pride is the name of the feeling of elevatedness. I am great and the world small. This notion is full of the feeling of pride. And I am small and the world is great. This notion is full of the feeling of wretchedness. This is also a phase of pride, as explained earlier. The Jain philosophy, by asserting, my nature is like Siddha, has included even God under the law of parity. One who believes in the statement, "I am not greater than any other, and I am not smaller than any other," will possibly not be overpowered by pride and wretchedness, respectively. The feeling of high and low is pride, whereas the feeling of equality is modesty. If all are equal, where lies the question of pride? But we have forgotten Sa and have retained Man. If one wishes to overcome pride, he must recognize and accept the equality present in all. If so, pride will itself run away and modesty religion will get manifested automatically. Pride is not the name of believing oneself as one is, because this is what is called true faith, true knowledge. On the other hand, by believing as one is not and not believing as one is, and then indulging in pride or wretchedness, pride emerges and the religion of modesty is shattered. If pride is evolved simply by believing the self to be a learned soul, then the right-faithed person will also be considered as proud of learning, because he also considers himself a learned soul. The omniscient God also knows and believes that he is omniscient. Is then he too a proud person? No, he isn't. The pride of knowledge is not there in the omniscient soul, but is only in the person possessing Kshayopsham Gyan. Even amongst the possessors of Kshayopsham Gyan, pride of learning is not found in the right-faithed souls, but is found in the wrong-faithed ones. The wrong-faithed soul is also called an unwise soul. Pride does not consist in knowing the union of things as mere assemblage, because the right-faithed Chakravarti knows and believes that he is Chakravarti, and simultaneously also knows that all association around him is mere assemblage of things, and that his soul is a totally distinct, peerless entity. This is the reason why the intensest pride, Anantanubandhi Man, does not exist in him. Although, due to spiritual weakness, the pride of Apratyakhyanavaran type is found in him, but even then, the feeling of identity with pride passion is absent, and as such, the existence of modesty religion is partially found in him. The root cause of intensest pride is the feeling of identifying with body, etc., other foreign substances, and impure and partly developed states of the self. Chiefly, we can understand this on the basis of the feeling of oneness with the body, because the pride of fair complexion, pride of caste, pride of clan, pride of physical strength, etc., are concerned with the physique only. The pride of fair complexion only arises when one identifies himself with the ugliness and the beauty of the body. Likewise, the pride of strength is also concerned with the strength of the body, and the decision about clan and caste being dependent on birth is also related with the body. How can the person who believes and knows the body as a totally different entity from the self, and also does not have the feeling of oneness in it, consider himself beautiful on account of the body being beautiful? Likewise, how shall he consider himself ugly if the body is ugly? The other point is that an enlightened self is well acquainted with the transitory nature of the things. Therefore, how can he develop pride by reliance on these things? All sorts of associations, body, etc., are likely to get deteriorated and destroyed gradually. Who knows when the presently handsome-looking body man turns ugly? What is the guarantee of affluence also? A person who is wealthy in the morning may turn to be a pauper before the fall of evening. The famous wrestler Gama, who used to stop a car by the strength of his arms, did not have the power to remove flies from his face in the dying moment. Can anybody assert confirmatively that whatever power, beauty, and wealth he possesses will also remain tomorrow? Little time is required in ruination of the body and the wealth. In such a state of affairs, on what to be proud and to what extent? Similarly, one should understand about tribe, family, etc. also. The pride of affluence is considered with outward things, whereas the pride of learning is based on the partially developed state of the mind. The pride of affluence is considered with outward things, whereas the pride of learning is based on the partially developed state of the soul. How can he who is aware of his fully manifested state of omniscience feel proud of his imperfect state of knowledge, which is the result of Kshayopsham Gyan? On one side, there is Bhagwan's infinite knowledge, and on the other side, the infinitesimal part of knowledge that we possess. On one side, there is Bhagwan's infinite knowledge, and on the other side, the infinitesimal part of knowledge that we possess. Is it worth being proud of? Moreover, the knowledge which is evolved by destruction cum subsidence of karmas is also transitory. It is quite possible that a sensible and highly literate person may become mad in a moment of time. The fall of pride, based on assemblage of wealth, caste, body, etc., is an ascertained fact, because the separation of the accumulated things is bound to take place. Therefore, the pride of a person, which is based on the accumulated things, is invariably going to be destroyed. For acquiring modesty religion, one will have to get away from the feeling of identity with physique. The feeling of identity with physique exists due to wrong belief. Therefore, first of all, wrong belief will have to be overcome. Only then virtues of supreme forbearance, modesty, and etc. will emerge. No other path is there. Wrong belief is overcome by self-realization. Hence, self-realization is the only single duty worth performing. The only means of achieving supreme forbearance, modesty religion, that is supreme sensitive happiness and peace. Along with the feeling of non-selfness in body, one must also develop simultaneously the feeling of abdicativeness in passions like anger, pride, etc., which have been nursed in the soul. Without the feeling of abdicativeness in them, their abdication is not possible. Although even the wrong-faithed person says, pride is a bad thing, one must give it up, nevertheless, in his heart of hearts, the feeling of adoptability in respect of pride, etc., continues. He calls them rejectable because scriptures say so. Inwardly, he has the desire of getting respect and honor. Therefore, he adopts various methods of getting respect and honor. He would say, though pride is a bad thing to oneself, yet self-respect is a must. But he is not at all aware of the true characteristics of self-respect and considers some aspect of pride to be self-respect. Suppose you have invited me for delivering a religious lecture, but the platform is of a smaller size and the gathering, according to me, is also poor for such a learned person like myself. Then I will react by telling, such a small stage, put one more stage in this. Didn't you feel ashamed by making such a low stage for such a great scholar, and attendance also very poor? You will say, Pandit ji is haughty, but I will maintain, this is not pride but self-esteem. A savant must at least have self-esteem. He must be properly respected. In the above matter, one fails to understand as to who has dishonored whom. Does anybody get dishonored by small gathering and low stage? After all, a line of demarcation shall have to be drawn between pride and self-esteem as to up to what level it will be called self-esteem and wherefrom pride can begin. Finally, what happens is that people treat him as a proud fellow, and the person so treated continues to maintain that it is just self-esteem. Such scenes could be seen on many occasions. The word Swabhiman is composed from Swa, Abhiman. The word Swa indicates the self. How is it concerned with the stage and the gathering? As a matter of fact, by recognizing the potentialities of one's own soul, and by taking shelter of the same, if one does not feel humiliated before the world, he is a Swabhimani. Due to ignorance about the true nature of self-esteem, the wrong-faithed person also takes pride to be self-esteem. Generally, pride is exchanged under the garb of reverence. The argument put forth is that it is Sat, Man. Really speaking, Man is always a Sat. But people have divided it into two parts. One, Sat plus Man, Samman, and 2, Asat plus Man, Asamman. If Man too be Sat, what about Asat? People say that if others honor us, why do you call us haughty? But gentlemen, it is you who has accepted it. While discussing the relative intensity of passions in the four kinds of births, Acharyas have asserted that pride passion is chiefly found in human birth. Man can renounce everything: the house, the family, the sons, etc., and even dress. But it is extremely difficult to renounce pride. A counter argument may be put up that, after all, one has to maintain the dignity of the post held by him. But why a man forgets that saint life is the name of a status, which is obtained by renouncing all sorts of posts and status. The king Ravan got hellish birth only due to his haughtiness. Although he kidnapped Sita, but he never touched her. He even made up his mind to return Sita respectfully to Ram, her husband. But the thought came to his mind that without fighting with Ram and without conquering him, he will lose self-respect. People will say that he returned Sita because he was afraid of Ram. So he decided that first he will conquer Ram and then will return Sita respectfully. Thus, he was ready to return Sita, but after conquering and not by getting defeated. The question was not that of Sita, but was of mustaches and of pride. Hundreds of houses are ruined, generally on account of the question of mustaches. In human birth, most of the quarrels take place only on account of pride. Persons twisting their mustaches can be seen everywhere around the courts. One may argue here that the desire of getting respect and honor may also be found in a right-faithed person, and it is found in practice too. On turning the pages of mythology, one will find many such examples. Certainly, such examples will be there. But the urge of self-respect is different from the feeling of the desirability in passions, like pride, etc. The feeling of desirability in passions, like pride, is a fallacious disposition of the soul called mithyatva bhav, and in its presence, supreme modesty, etc. virtues cannot be manifested in the presence of the desire for pride and pride passion. Religions like modesty can manifest partially because the desire of pride and partial presence of pride passion is the result of the rise of conduct diluting karma. It disappears gradually but not all at once. Although the right-faithed person has become free from the intensest type of pride, but still, the apratyakhyanavaran, pratyakhyanavaran and sanjvalan types of pride are still existing in him. Their clear manifestation will be observed in the wise person also. Likewise, the pratyakhyanavaran and sanjvalan types of pride in a votarist observing partial vows, and sanjvalan pride in the naked possessionless saints observing complete vows will be actually present. The passion, like pride, will get shedded only as per one's spiritual status, but the feeling of desirability and utility in them must get shedded, because without this, religion cannot commence or take birth. What astonishes one is that we have started treating them useful and adoptable. People say that in household life, somewhat anger and pride must be there, otherwise it will be difficult to pull on. Even if the slight anger would not be there, the children will also not obey. The whole discipline and administration will go dogs. If one is somewhat vocal, then everything goes all right and timely too. So, if we do not maintain pride at all, no one will care a bit for us. A little degree of pride is essential even for the sake of prestige, credit, and pompousness. The deluded person presumes that discipline, administration, respect, and honor are maintained only by anger and pride. But as a matter of fact, these do not have even a distant relationship with anger and pride. An aged man was suffering from cough. He was advised to take treatment. He replied, "Gentleman, in such a large family, this much coughing is necessary." When asked why, he replied, "You don't understand the matter. Young daughters and daughter-in-laws also live in this big house, and entering the house by making the sound of cough, all of them become alert. This protects their and our prestige." He was advised further that he should take treatment for cough, and for daughters and daughter-in-laws, he could indulge in artificial coughing. At this, he reacted sharply. "Why to make artificial coughing when real cough is there? We don't do anything artificial. They who don't have the real only indulge in artificial acts." To indulge in artificial cuffing, if necessary, is a different thing, and treating cuff as useful and adoptable is a different thing. One who has accepted the cuff disease as useful and adoptable is sure in due course of time to invite tuberculosis. Similarly, the desire for pride or partial existence of pride, etc., is a different thing, and treating them useful and adoptable is a different thing. The manifestation of religion is not possible in one who considers the passions of pride as desirable. The passions of pride vanish gradually as per one's spiritual status, but the sense of adoptableness in all sorts of passion goes away all at once. Without relinquishing the feeling of adoptableness in these, the commencement of religion cannot take place. Is it to be concluded then that one must not indulge in anger, pride, etc., and must give them up? No. What has been said is this, that anger, pride, etc. are not given up, but those get themselves shutted off. Many people tell me, "You fall sick too often. You should not fall sick too often." I ask them, do I fall sick deliberately? If it was given to me, I would never fall sick. Similarly, does anybody indulge in anger, pride deliberately? No, if one is left to himself, he would never get passionate, because every rational being understands that passions are harmful and even likes that he should never get passionate. But nothing comes out of his liking. Passions like anger and pride do occur, and not only occur, but always remain existing, sometimes more, sometimes less, either in lesser degree or in greater degree. Since beginningless time, even a single soul could never be found even for a moment without passions. If the state of passions vanishes totally, even once, for 1 unit of time, no passion will germinate. Now, the important question arises as to why does pride arise and how to get rid of it? What is the root cause of its existence and how to bring it to an end? So long as these mundane souls continue believing in other substances as one's own, till then the intensest pride will continue arising. The point worth noting here is this, that the mere presence of other substances is not the cause of pride. Millions of rupees remain lying in the safe, but the safe does not become proud of it. Even the accountant who keeps them safely does not indulge in pride. But the proprietor sitting far off from the safe is proud of his possession because he believes that all that is his own. The proprietor considers himself the owner of the cloth mill. If the mill is lost, the proprietor will not get away from pride, because if it is nationalized, the proprietorship of the mill goes away, but in his heart, the place of pride will be taken by wretchedness. So far, he used to feel proud by considering himself the proprietor of the mill. Now, after losing its possession, he will consider himself to be a wretched fellow. Will the pride vanish? If not by losing the mill, at least by leaving it. No, pride will not vanish even then, because the pride of giving up the pride will get evolved. For giving up pride totally, one will have to leave treating the mill as one's own. The basis of pride is not some foreign substance, but it is the feeling of identity with other substances. Mainly, pride is found in him who identifies himself with other substances. Hence, for giving up pride, one will have to leave treating other substances as one's own. The meaning of leaving the feeling of treating other things as his own is that one will have to know the self as the self and the non-self as non-self. Believing two different, distinct entities as independent existences is the real giving up of treating others as his own. And this is what is called the giving up of the feeling of mine-ness. We have to discard the feeling of identity with other objects and the feeling of desirability in attachments, etc. After these feelings are gone, the intensest type of pride passion, particularly the Anantanubandhi man, will not arise at all. On account of one's own fault and weakness in conduct, the non-intensest pride, Apratyakhyanavaran man, etc., will be in existence for some time, but that will also go on diminishing gradually as per the state of self-absorbedness based on right belief and right knowledge. Ultimately, a day will come when the soul possessing the nature of modesty, will attain perfect modesty religion in the modification also, and no trace of pride will remain in it. I conclude the discussion on the religion of modesty with the prayer that may that day be dawned for all beings at the earliest.